Hello, everybody. It is great to be here one more time today. And my name is Gary Fowler, and I'm the CEO, president, and founder of GSD Get Shit Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio located in the heart of Silicon Valley. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur with several unicorns under the belt. I was on the original management team at Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva, an AI HR tech company that I co-founded with Dr. David Yang. With that, I'd like to bring my incredible guest. Jen has the most robust, broad background of any person I've ever met. She's a fashionista. She is a model. She has been an entrepreneur, a champion skier, designer, connector of connectors. She's the best in the world at doing it. For that, I'd like to bring Jen online. Hi, Jen. How are you today?
Fine, thank you. Greetings from New York City.
Yeah, so tell me about it. How in the world do you go? You grew up in what? Canada, right? Correct.
I was born in Calgary, Canada, and my first boyfriend in New York, Bruce, who was in finance, told everybody I was a Calgary cowgirl. And of course, I was very, very, very upset about that. But as I grow older, I'm more and more proud of my Canadian heritage.
So now, did you go to the Stampede when you were in Calgary?
I did. As a matter of fact, my father was the 5-time world chuck wagon race winner of the Calgary Stampede.
Chuck wagon? Now, is that like the things that you talk about?
The chuck wagon races that's it. If you grew up in Calgary, the Calgary Stampede is the biggest thing that happens. And it's very embarrassing having always been a very sophisticated sort of international Canadian girl. It is a little bit embarrassing that the biggest thing in my town was the Calgary Stampede. But as I said, I'm very proud of my Canadian roots, and I'm glad that I get to, be one of the few Canadians out there wherever I go. It's very exciting.
So tell me, so you went you went to university, I think Western Ontario, if I recall, correct?
Yes.
You went
we don't need to say any dates, of course. No dates.
No dates.
Interviewing girls.
Only a couple years ago. And so you went there, and then how in the world did you get to be a champion skier? Did you ski in Canada, or what happened?
Before that. So I grew up in Calgary, which is 1 hour from Banff, and our ski chalet in Banff, it was less than an hour. So every weekend, my father would fill us all into the GMC, and up we would go to Banff. So I grew up on the ski slopes there and at Lake Louise and Sunshine. And I became a top skier. I got pretty bored around 16 years old, and this new thing called freestyle. And I got really excited about freestyle. I'd done Nancy Green League. I'd raced, and I raced with a lot of the boys. The Canadian Canucks were a big thing, and they skied as faster than I did. So it was really fun for me to try to keep up with them. And then freestyle came along, and I became one of the first, if not the first, female in Canada to do upright jumps. And it was very scary. I remember all the boys at the big hill. It was a huge, huge hill. And they all said, "Get the girl off the hill." And that's why we don't let women on the hill, because I was scared going off a 2-story jump, for heaven's sakes.
How was that? Now, how did it feel when you
went
off
at
that
16 years old? Go figure. So they were all screaming at me, and I just said, "I'm doing it. I'm doing it for all the women. I'm doing it." And I went down, and I went off, and I went into the air, probably 3 stories flying in the air, and everybody started screaming. Then they got really scared. They started screaming, "Tuck, this girl's going to kill herself." And I tucked, and I went around, and all my skis came off, but I didn't get hurt. And that was the start of
my God. So you fell, you came down, and
I came down, skis went everywhere, people running everywhere, thinking I'm like killed. And I survived, and I was right back up for the next one. And sooner than later, I figured out how to do the tucks and tuck. You go all the way up, and then you push your body really hard, and it gives you enough momentum to do the flip. And then I started doing back layouts, which were much easier and prettier. And then from there, I fell in love with a boy from down the hill. who had hair an inch below his ears. His name was Glenn. And my father said, this will never do. And so off I was shipped with 1 week's notice to boarding school in Switzerland so that I would. And my father said, well, you can go on the European pro circuit. So as soon as I got there, he used my love of skiing, to get me to Switzerland without crying too much or marrying the boy, the 18-year-old boy down the hill. And I had my fake ID from Canada, and on the European pro circuit, you had to be 21. I was 17. I won the Italian championship, second in the Swiss championships, and then all the floodgates opened up to all the modeling jobs and ski modeling, poster girl, and all these other things. And I made a lot of money, which I hid while I was going to school from my father. I hid from my father because I knew he would, I don't know, never let me keep that kind of money. I did a Sean Connery movie. I got to spend 2 days with Sean Connery because I guess I was Canadian and I was the stunt skier. So they put he and I in a big sort of suite with our own makeup artist. And I got all these amazing experiences.
Now, was that interesting meeting Sean Connery?
Yeah, he was the greatest guy. And my father had a flight center and loved airplanes. So he had met my brother and who would meet the planes. And he had taken some of my father's airplanes and rented them to go helicopter skiing. And I knew all the helicopter skiing guys. So we had a lot to talk about, and he was literally the greatest guy. And he remembered me when I bumped into him. Here I am in Aspen, fast forward maybe 15 years, and I'm at Little Nell's in Aspen. And he recognized me immediately, invited me to sit with all the A-list celebrities that he was out for dinner with, invited me, for the whole evening to talk to them and tell them about our stories when we did this stunt skiing for his Sean Connery movie. Kind of fun.
Now, how did it feel when you're around those celebrities there? Now, did you get them to say, I'm Bond, James Bond? Did you get them to say at least once?
No, but he said in front of the entire, there was an event when we were all, it was in San Moritz. It was in Silva Plana, a little town right near San Moritz. And he said, he got up and he made a little toast to me. I didn't realize how epic it was at the time, but he said, Jen is the most beautiful skier in the world, because I was doing all my ballet and I was, do you remember Susie Shappy?
Yeah, I remember that, the chapstick lady.
Yeah, so she became my good friend because when she left, she was somewhat older than me. And so when she left Europe, just the same year that I got there, I immediately, looking a little bit like her, walked into all her sponsorships and all her deals. So I have to thank Susie for my being able to really make so much money in Europe that year, which later kept in the Swiss bank account. And later I was able to use that to start my fashion company when my father and my grandfather said, basically, if you don't take this job at Goldman Sachs that you've just got, forget it. Don't look to us for any help. And I said, well, I got this money hidden away in Switzerland, and I used that to start my fashion company in New York when I finally moved here after college.
Wow, that's amazing. So you met all these celebrities, and as you went down through this journey, so how did it feel when you went from this 17-year-old to now you become this mogul, this entrepreneur? How did it feel?
Well, I'd have to say that it was at 17, being famous was very, unusual, because you think, wow. I mean, I remember specifically thinking, wow, I'm 17. Imagine where I'm going to be when I'm 27. It's basically all downhill from there. I think when you're really young and you have something that you do well, I had gotten sponsored by a company called Powderhorn. They were one of the big ski clothing companies out of Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And they put me on their poster. And they put me on their poster with my arm like this, pushing the jacket back. And it was so cold that I didn't know. I was wearing a little crop top, but you could see the ridge of my nipples. I'm allowed to say that now, but in those days, this was very taboo. You would wear a bra everywhere. So it was just a little bit risque, and it made it to every ski place in Europe and every ski place in America. And I remember my father took us to Vail, and I walked into one of the big bars because I was always loving to walk around and see everything, even though I wasn't supposed to be there. So I walked in, and I remember the whole place stopped talking, and they were all just staring at me. And it was like, maybe 40 guys and 3 girls. And I said to somebody, excuse me, what's happened? And they said, well, they all know who you are. I said, what do you mean? And they go, they all know that you're the girl in the poster. I'm like, whoa.
Oh my God, that's great.
That was my first sort of time of being, kind of realizing that I was just doing what I love more than anything in the world, waking up every day and skiing, and somehow, yeah. So then one of the, I guess what got kind of interesting, it's interesting how life rolls around, and you look back and you realize that something as small as me winning the Italian championships, getting the sponsorship for Powderhorn, then I rearranged the Powderhorn. I said, company design. I said, excuse me. I said, since I'm going to be your spokesmodel and I'm going to wear your stuff, could I design some things that I want? And they said, okay, but sure. No model had ever asked that before. So I said, well, I need a little tiny brush down below, right where my boots are, because I need a little pocket. Can you make me a bell? This was all straight. Nothing had come like this. So I said, can you make me something that comes like this so that I can have a big pocket and put my little tiny brush and my eyelash curler? Because one of the great things about skiing is that there's almost all guys and you're the only girl. So
there you go.
I needed to look cute, for heaven's sakes. I mean, so they made that for me. And then I said, also, I had a step monster who wasn't helping me in any way to do anything. As a matter of fact, I would say she was working against me at all times. So I was not given almost any money from my father to even buy ski lift tickets, even though it was no problem. So I said, can you give me a little plastic pocket right here? I want a plastic pocket. And by the way, can I have a second one of those for my girlfriend once you make them? And they said, sure. So I'm not a morning person, never have been, never will be. So she would ski in the morning, up at the crack of dawn. She would put her ticket in the pocket. And then at 1 o'clock, I'd meet her at lunch, and she'd just hand it over to me, and then I'd stick it in my pocket. And then by the next year, 1 year later, Bogner, every single major company had stolen all my ideas. And I saw firsthand that, wow, that's my idea. That's my idea. And I saw that within one season, all these designs that I'd come up with as a 17-year-old young girl had been taken by the main ski company and adopted. So that put the idea that, wow, this could be kind of a cool thing to be a designer one day.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, you did that, and then, you've gone down through, you've had all these different opportunities, and you're amazing at meeting with people and bringing, how do you do that? What's the magic of bringing all the very highly connected people, high net worth individuals, bringing everybody together? What's the magic about that?
I would say that I could look back to when I was once again a 7-year-old child, and my father and mother had divorced, and my mother had left when I was 3 and never came back again. And so I was brought up with governesses and nannies, and the only time my father ever seemed to kind of have time for me, he was a captain of the universe. The only time he could even look at me was when he was having one of his many parties, and everybody would say, wow, look at your daughter. She's so smart. And, I just spoke to her. And so I became really good at being a social hostess because when I was a really good social hostess, my dad was happy with me. And watching my father, he ended up eventually running for Prime Minister of Canada. He was a cabinet minister, a member of parliament, and a pretty well-known, world renowned businessman. So he was my only role model that I had. And I learned how to make people feel good because he did it all the time, talking to people. I said, guess just being good with people. And I really liked people because I had no mother, and because I guess I was sort of alone in some aspects in the world. I loved talking to people. I loved meeting them. I loved hearing their stories. And I think the life as a child with a father that doesn't even know when your birthday is and no mother is somewhat hard. And I think that I love helping people because I know how hard it was. And if I can help a young child and change their life, I feel happy for 2 days. So, and I wish that more people had reached out and helped me. My biggest kindnesses always came from strangers. So
Really? Like what kind of things?
All the time. As a matter of fact, the danger was in the house. So the danger was at home and with the step monster, and strangers reached out every day to help me. So we belonged to this club called the Glencoe Club, and we would go. I would go there every day to work out and to swim. I was on the swim team, and I was an athlete, so I was training. And she would make sure I wasn't allowed to have any money or for food or anything. And so I'd walk into the cafeteria, and I just kind of look, and I always had big eyes, and I just kind of look at all the food. And the two of the ladies noticed that I never got anything. I just wanted to go look. I like to look at everything. And slowly but surely, every single time I turned up, they would say, here's a piece of cake. Here's a. So they started feeding me. And strangers at school noticed, bruises on me. And I would say friends' mothers noticed that I was being abused, and they would take me aside and just invite me into their house and treat me special. And
wow.
So strangers did amazing things to make sure that I survived to be here where I am now, able to make a huge difference for others.
No, that's great. I mean, it's amazing. And so when you're going down through it, and you don't have to name names, but have you ever been, when you're with these celebrities and things, do you ever get to a personal level with them? I know when I've had my conversations, we've had personal talks about interesting things. Do you have those conversations?
I do. I would say that I'm very empathic by nature. So I hate small talk, and I want to get right to the meat and potatoes, and I want to know what makes people tick. And I think they immediately see that I'm an honest person, just doing the best that I can in life, like everybody. And so they tend to open up a lot to me. I have many, many celebrity friends, and my friends laugh because my father had a lot of money. So I didn't give a damn about money. I cared about love, and I cared about making a difference. Although without money, life isn't, very easy. I had, at least I would say, you ask about celebrities, I suppose 12 billionaires wanted to date me, marry me, have me as their mistress. And I was in love with one of them, who was the love of my life. But other than that, nobody.
Wait, he was your love of your life?
Yeah, he was one of the celebrities that, I managed to be, I suppose you could say, his New York girl for 10 years. But yeah, he was one of the most special people I've ever met in my life.
Wow, that's amazing. So you had a good time with him.
Well, yeah, he was a prince. You can guess on which one, but he was a popular prince, so every girl in the world wanted him, and I actually truly loved him, so that kept me off the market for a while. But I would say that because of my father, and because of the fact that money didn't buy one day of happiness growing up, I really focused on surrounding myself with amazing people that had really big hearts, that wanted to make a difference in the world, that were givers, not takers, and that weren't judgmental. Because I find that negative people are very judgmental and they always want to tell you what you can't do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I finally came up with this motto, which is when somebody would tell me what they couldn't do or what I couldn't do, because I said, I'm going to move to New York. And what are you going to do in New York? Well, I'll model. Maybe I can be a fashion designer. And they told me how crazy that was. And so I learned at a young age that you have to say, listen, Jack, Mary, Patricia, grandmother, just because you can't do it doesn't mean I can't do it. So I'm going to go and I'm going to try. And then somehow I did it. But so many people don't even try. My own grandmother, remember I had no mother, so I love my grandmother more than life itself. She was in Toronto. And she said, if you think anybody in New York City is going to buy a dress that you made, you are as crazy as Alice in Wonderland, which is always that and Pippi Longstocking had childhood nicknames. And I ended up within 7 years with no money from my family, with no emotional support at all from anybody other than a few friends, and no financial support except the money that I'd hidden in Switzerland when I was 17 years old. I had 7 covers of Cosmo, Celine Dion, Mariah Carey, Duchess of York, dozens of other celebrities wearing my clothes. I won the Bergdorf Goodman Designer of the Year award and was put on the 4th floor. And there were 3 other designers in a room with me, Oscar de la Renta, Yves Saint Laurent, and Bill Blass. And they all offered me jobs. And that's where it gets a little stupid. I said no to all of them because I remember in my head saying, well, now I'm 27. Remember, I was 17.
Yeah.
And now I'm 27. Imagine where I'm going to be when I'm 37. I'm going to be you. Of course, life doesn't always go in the direction that you hope.
I mean, but one of the things, right? You got to keep it charted in the right direction. Believe in the capabilities, visualize where you want to go, and set your dreams. So, life does hit you with a ton of bricks sometime. But the thing is, it's about the resilient come back. And I met with this guy, Andrew Staginski, who worked for Rupert Murdoch. And I remember we were at the dinner in California, and the founder of Google, Carl Page, was there. And we had a couple of drinks, and I asked him, I said, Andrew, he said, I've studied 3,000 entrepreneurs. And I said, what's the most important thing? And he said, amnesia. He said, you don't talk about it. You just let it go. And I was like, he said, when he interviewed 3,000 of the top individuals, so some of the wealthiest individuals and families, they all said the same thing. Don't dwell on the past. Only think about today and the future. That's all you got in front of you.
Well, I'll follow that with something that Sir Richard Branson said to me at the Aspen Institute. And we were talking about entrepreneurial ventures and how difficult they are. And I said, wow, it takes 8 years to build these companies, and then something goes wrong. And now you're starting again. It's really, it can be a really big blow when you're in technology, building technology companies, as I've been for, I guess, 24 years now, since I left the fashion business when I was quite young. And he said, don't feel bad, Jen. He said, let me see, I can't get the numbers exactly right because it was a while ago, but he said, I have something like, 30 of the top guys on planet Earth from the top colleges, all looking for the top companies. And they choose the top companies that they can find anywhere on Earth. And they might, find hundreds, and we narrow it down to 10. And, I'm lucky if 1 or 2 of those 10 make me money. So
yeah, well, that's true. He looks at that's a way to look at it, right? You get on through, and happiness and part of the team, those kind of things. So listen, we're coming up to the top of the show already, so we've got a couple of minutes left. But your closing thoughts that you would give to young entrepreneurs out there and people in general during these turbulent times. And like I said, you're the best. I've never seen anybody connect people like you in my life. You're the most kind-hearted person, focused on bringing people together and companies together I've ever seen in my life. So, hats off to you. So, but you're going forward. How do we bring more of that kindness out to the world that you've got inside you?
I had something ready for you on making a difference because I knew you would ask me about it. So I'll quickly go through my little notes. So I start with, what do we do in this life that really matters? Because a lot of the stuff we do doesn't really matter. We have such a short amount of time on this planet. We have a responsibility to make this world a better place for our children and humanity. So I tell young people, you have a choice. Go to another party and get so drunk and stoned you don't even remember anything, or use that time to learn and change someone's life. If I'm on a bus or a train or at an airport and I see somebody upset, I stop and I use my years of experience to find solutions for them rather than just catch up on my texts. It's so easy to just add purposefully helping strangers into your schedule when you can. Just tell an old lady how great she looks when she's all dressed up for a big outing to the supermarket, or help somebody take a photo of their family as you walk through the park. Engaging with strangers enriches your life as much as it does others. I think unlimited growth is unlimited. There is no limit to there's no limit to how deeply or how much you can love or learn about yourself or spend on scientific or spiritual pursuits. I see that most people are emotionally starved. They spend so much time on things that are superficial in the scheme of things, like all the toys and flash. And then they wake up one day and they feel alone and they wonder what meaning their life has. Humans are one whole community and family. Politics, religion, race, and financial status divide us. Many people forget that we are all the same. When a human cuts their finger, they all bleed. They all suffer when someone they love dies. And they all want their kids to have what they didn't have. This is a worldwide human phenomenon. And every single human alive wishes they could find somebody that they love to experience that joy of true love with. And that's the hardest thing. Even most people married don't get to find that, which is really sad. And I've been on a quest for it. I haven't found it yet, but I know that somewhere my Mr. Right with a huge heart is out there. The happy ending to my story, so to speak. Anyway, everyone I've ever met, all those people that I love to talk to and to communicate with and to kind of dive into, even the ones that were hiding, they all wanted to be seen so that they wouldn't feel so alone. I don't see the difference in people as much as I see the similarities. We are all one big family, having the same human experience. Why is it so hard for most people to just reach out to strangers and help them if they have a little extra time? I wish I could do a lot more, and I hope I will be able to do a lot more to make as big a difference as I can in the future. My remote assistant, Zia, who's worked with me every day for almost 3.5 years, lives in Dhaka, Bangladesh. And there are over 200 orphanages in this one city alone. This year, Zia and I set up Angels of Hope Boys Club. This week, Zia took a meal, a big meat dinner meal to all the boys. And so many of the boys started crying and hugging him for joy. It was the first time they'd had meat in a month. You don't need to look far like Bangladesh to find people in need. I say to everyone who's asleep in their life, wake up, wake up. We need every single one of you to be helping to make this world a better place. Like, it's so easy. And so many people are so consumed with their toys and their flash and doing nothing that's really important. Oh, I don't want to miss the 10th ball game or the 10th football game. And that small amount of time that Zia and I focused, we were able to feed 80 kids just this week. For instance, it didn't take us long at all. So I set up the Bawden Foundation as a legacy to my father and my grandfather for our family to make a difference globally, one child at a time. So I say to everybody, find your passion, and when you can, make the biggest benefit you can to help others, because otherwise you're on your dying bed and you're thinking, wow, I'm so glad that I got that last Porsche. No, I don't think so. But all those children's lives that you managed to save because you had a heart or found your heart at some point and said, I'm going to just go make a difference. I would say if I could do anything, it would be to inspire others to just share love, because love is what everyone needs. And the reason people love me and you say I have such a big heart is because I share with everyone. Because when I was a child, there was no love at home at all. And I got all my love from the outside world. And now I hug strangers. I get the nickname Angel Jen because I get to make a difference and I get to hug strangers. And it makes me feel so proud and honored that I get to be in the right place at the right time to help people. And I would say that's made the most happiness in my life.
No, that's great. Well, thanks for that great ending, and look forward to the next Jen's friend thing. She's got amazing friends, and it's a lot of fun. I got to tell you, you were right. You don't forget it. You meet a lot of interesting people that
Well,
you don't forget.
I bring super smart people together. I love bringing world leaders together. I've been doing it for at least a decade. I used to organize parties and events in New York, and then I went global and said I want to use my time and energy not bringing in money for the New York City Opera, no offense, but I want to help dying children or help EMP, electromagnetic pulse, and make sure that we're protecting citizens from much bigger existential threats than I guess some of the smaller ones. And I think the next thing I would say is think big. Like, don't think small, think big. You can do big things. Whatever you want to do, you can do. And I will mention that for anybody watching this that has a daughter, please, and I don't care about the book sales because my book's been in the stores for 23 years now. I just care about the fact that it's called Get a Life, Then Get a Man. It's a woman's guide to help you get your own life together and how to make as big a difference as you can in your life. So I would get every guy watching this to try to share that book, Get a Life, Then Get a Man, with your daughter.
That sounds great, Jen. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule today for joining us. And thanks to all my viewers for joining one more time. GESD presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. I will be back again next week with another exciting edition. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. And I'll be back to you again soon. Take care, everybody. Take care, Jen. Thank you.